And farmers have to make a living, and not everybody will choose to have a plant-based diet.
The main goal of a protest is to raise awareness.
You attack people and throw shit at them.
Radical vegans.
Veganism is today's newest trend and lifestyle for young millennials. In 2018, it was reported that the number of vegans had risen to 3.5 million, and year on year it has grown as many see it as a healthier lifestyle, being better for the environment and helping with animal welfare. Yet it is said that it's the passionate community surrounding veganism that has caused this immense growth.
Well, I think the whole idea is that you're living a way of life that doesn't require animals to sort of sacrifice in order for you to survive. You don't use any animal-based products. And a lot of people who say they're vegan, like, it is surrounded by the diet, but other people refer to it as like a lifestyle. Protesting
is one of the more influential ways vegans spread their cruelty-free message. Yet it's not always successful. Vegan protesting has been linked as one of the biggest threats for extremist behaviour. It has led to the question of, does it bring more harm than good? And does protesting give vegans a worse reputation than before? I want to investigate vegan protesting and see how just it is in gaining attention and helping their cause. Or does protesting give vegans a bad name, making people less inclined to hear what they have to say? Is this type of activism for veganism or extremism? I travelled down to Brighton to experience one of the largest and deemed most aggressive vegan activist groups in the UK. They are called Direct Action Everywhere, and they focus on disruptive protesting and also use non-violent direct action tactics, such as open rescue from farms, to get their message across. DXE believe in total animal liberation and species equality, and use protesting to get their message out there. I wanted to see with my own eyes the extent to their so-called militant protesting, and see the reaction it stirs amongst the crowd. Overall, I want to get an idea if protesting is really as horrid and frightening as the media puts it, or is everything being dramatised for a story?
They suffer through the pain of childbirth, and then they have their baby stolen within hours of birth.
The people with the doing the DVD things, they are just supposed to stand there quietly so people will watch and won't feel put off. Because if you're this close to me, you might think, oh gosh, I don't know how she's too close. Whereas if the person's masked, then you don't know who they are, you don't know if they're looking at you, so you just look at this screen. People who can't hold one of those or haven't got a laptop can hold a few signs to make people think and to come over. That one, of course, is more shouting, getting attention. This one is quiet, peaceful, and just inviting people to look at the footage.
Yeah, so mine was on the way to uni, and they said to me, like, okay, you need to be careful, all the doors around the uni are closed. And so I was like, oh, what's going on? Like, what's like sort of things happening? And he was like, oh, it's a vegan protest, but it's non-students. So I was on my way in and I got stopped and I heard all this like yelling and stuff as I was approaching the doors, and they were all like chained up to each other with all like signs and like banners, and they were all shouting, and they were like, oh, are you vegan, and they were sort of shouting at me a bit, and I was just like, no, just keep my head down, just like keep walking in. And so I think they sort of lose their credibility a lot when they start to be so violent and so like aggressive towards you. The conversation can be there, but it needs to just be done in a more appropriate way and more of a relaxed way.
I only feel as bad as I do for people who like doing pornographic films. You know, people who have women that they farm out and they're their pimps. I feel equally as bad for farms as I do for pimps who are pimping on women and people making pornographic footage to make money. Well, let them get on their bike and drive, cycle to the next town and find work. So I'd say to all the farmers who are whinging, well, get on your bike, find a decent job, sell your own body rather than somebody else's.
Just because they have changed my mind in some ways, like, but that's more than me having one-on-one conversations with my friends more than them doing their protests. Their protests, I don't get anything. Like, it doesn't change my mind either way. If anything, it makes me more like, I'm going to ignore you kind of thing. But actually talking to people that do it and why they do it, that does influence me in being like, okay, yeah, I can have like a meal that is vegan.
But no, I do really like believe in like protesting. It's really just more symbolic. Like, I think the main goal of a protest is to raise awareness. I think like awareness is the biggest thing, like public awareness and gaining public support. You have to be able to like sacrifice some of like your passion in order to actually speak to people openly, and there's no point going and talking to someone who's like eaten meat their whole life and like doesn't view anything wrong with it. If you're just going to shout in their face, like that is just going to shut them out completely. They'll never listen to you if you act like that.
Depends what they're really protesting about. I know we do have protested about treatment of animals. We can restrict the amount of protests that are allowed, but we do facilitate protests as long as it remains lawful. And we have our public order teams around if protests become unlawful.
They probably see it as helping their cause, and they probably are getting more people to join them, but equally it is giving them a worse reputation amongst the farming communities, definitely.
If you do it in the correct way, it gets their message across, and you also get other film or news media in, but it's when it goes the wrong way, it just gets a bad reputation.
In society you've got like this many people who would see it and be like, oh god, vegans, and then like this many people who would see it and be like, oh, I should go vegan. Even if it's like just a small proportion, they do it for those people who would see it and go, wow, I should really think about like my like meat intake, like my animal product intake. The idea is it's kind of like worth the cost of all of these people thinking they're so whatever, crazy.
When it becomes unlawful, I'll give you an example, demonstration, and we got caught up in it one day and they were smashing up a taxi. I then tried to arrest one of the people who was involved in it, and I got assaulted, thrown over the bonnet of the car. We had about 100 people attacking us.
So like vegans who do that, like they do it because they love animals. Like I don't think intentions are ever like wrong intentions.
You know, they're protesting outside butchers' shops and putting murder around shop windows and things like that as well. So it's not just farmers that are getting a hard time, it's anybody associated with the meat trade. They are just terrorists.
The reason why most of us go vegan is because you like see footage and like just like can't like sort of like bear this idea of like animals being treated like that, and so it makes sense that in order to get other people to go vegan you would have to show them that kind of thing because that's what convinced us, so like that's going to convince them.
And don't forget, probably the biggest place it's gone costs the British taxpayer, because the police are having to fund, you know, outside markets that's regularly protested at, and the police are there 24/7 letting their farmers in to take their animals to market. And I'm sure the police would rather spend their money sorting out preventing knife crime than presenting some idiot that wants to say, oh, don't hurt the sheep.
Yeah, but well, it's a waste of our time. The moment we have to arrest somebody, it takes, for example, the protests we were dealing with at the G20 took about 10 officers per person. The British Transport Police, we're there to protect the railway stations. Now if we get taken off the station by the protests, the stations are left unprotected.
Many farming communities across the UK are being targeted by vegans. There are hit list style websites that have been created to expose personal details about the locations of farms. This information will be used by vegans to break into the farms and collect footage of different farming practices in hopes of exposing the farmers. This style of protesting has been described as harassment. Many agricultural workers are in fear that their property will be targeted. In some extreme cases, farmers have been sent death threats and their personal property has been damaged because of protesting.
Just recently they went onto a pig farm and prevented the farmer from feeding the pigs, and this just causes a load of stress for the animals, so although they think they're doing a good thing, they're actually not. There was a guy last year went onto a dairy farm and let the cows onto a public highway, which of course cows can run quite fast. You don't keep down a single lane and a car comes round the corner, you're not endangering the cows' lives, but you're endangering the public's lives.
I do think that like that sort of activism can be like effective. Like they really are just trying to free them, because ultimately on the farm they're going to be killed anyway. When I feel like when people expose, it's less targeted at an individual, but more like the system in which that individual is functioning.
I understand that people say that animals are living beings, but these animals wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the farmers in the first place, and I just think that they get a really hard time. You know, people say we don't care about our animals. Do you see all the activists out helping when we have all the 3 foot of snow and they're wading through the snow to save their livestock.
After looking into both sides of the argument, I have learned more about veganism and the protests surrounding it. I've discovered that news is better than no news, meaning even if vegans are getting a bad reputation because of protesting, their cause is still gaining a lot of attention, regardless if it is good or bad. We see this through the incline of vegan products and the growth of veganism as a whole. Though we can't ignore the fact that there is a lot of hate surrounding this topic, it is not fair on the farmers who earn a living on these agricultural trades to be subject to abuse. We need to remember that farmers are people too, who have feelings and lives, and they don't deserve to be targeted and called murderers. Both sides of this argument have very strong opinions, and the unwillingness to meet middle ground will continue the battle of, are the farmers right or are the vegans right? From this process, I have learnt being vegan is a very personal decision, and whatever influenced you to make that decision will be different from others. I don't know if protesting is the most effective way in changing minds. Yet if it does, I do believe it should be done in a respectful manner and not forced upon people. We all have the right to our opinions, and we have the right to disagree with others.